So thanks for the introduction. I'm Neta, and I'm going. Can you please shut the clock? I know that the time is really cool. Hi, I'm Neta, and today I'm going to present a work on how to protect NTP with Chronos. So NTP is a network time protocol which synchronizes time across computer systems over the internet. Many applications rely on it, such as TLS certificates, DNS, even DNSSEC, HTTPS, Kerberos, and many financial applications. So, for example, when we access a website with HTTPS, our browser checks that the server he communicated with actually hosts this website. So in order to do so, he looked at the certificate. And this is the certificate information and the expiration date. So in order our browser to check it, he needs to know what the time is. And wrong time in our browser can lead us to accept old and maybe compromised certificates. So now that we know how major this protocol is, let's talk about the NTP architecture. So in a nutshell, NTP is client-server architecture consists of two main processes, pull process and selection process. In the pull process, the client, here, the client sends NTP queries to 3 or more NTP servers and get NTP responses. In the selection process, the best time samples are selected and the client updates his clock accordingly. However, NTP, the current NTP, is highly vulnerable to time-shifting attacks, especially made by man-in-the-middle attacker. Man-in-the-middle is an attacker who controls the section between the client and at least one of the NTP servers and can tamper with the NTP responses. And then make us believe that his sample is the best one and we should use it in order to update our client clock. He can also try to change our time by simply dropping or delaying packets to or from the servers. That is why encryption and authentication are not sufficient. And previously studies even consider man-in-the-middle as too strong for NTP. But why is NTP so vulnerable to man-in-the-middle anyway? As we said before, NTP consists of two processes, pull process and selection process. In the pull process, we rely only on a small number of NTP servers from a certain pool, and they are often DNS cached, which means that the attacker only needs man-in-the-middle capabilities with respect of few NTP servers in order to maintain his attack. And the selection process algorithms assume that incurrency are rare and that the NTP responses are well distributed around the UTC, the correct time. And therefore, powerful and sophisticated man-in-the-middle attacker can bypass this algorithm and he's beyond the scope of traditional threat models. In order to face this limitation, we suggest a modified NTP client called Chronos with the following characteristics. It has probable security. We can bound the probability of successful time-shifting attack even facing man-in-the-middle attacker. It has backward compatibility since there is no need to change anything in the server, in the NTP server side, only limited software needed in the client side, and it has only low computational and communicational overhead since eventually we query only few NTP servers. So in order to prove how Chronos helped to protect NTP, we need to define our threat model. So we assume that the attacker has full control over a large function of NTP servers, say quarter. We assume that he is capable of both deciding the content of NTP and the timing when it's going to arrive to the client. And of course, we assume that he is malicious and try to shift the time's clock as much as possible. So how Chronos is built? First of all, we rely on many NTP servers. We generate a large server pool, 100 of servers per client, in order to raise the threshold needed by the man-in-the-middle attacker. On the other side, we query only a few servers that are randomly chosen in every update. We are talking about tens of them in order to avoid overloading NTP servers. And finally, we use smart filtering in order to remove outliers and make it hard to the man in the middle to contaminate the chosen time samples. So informally, what the Chronos client do in order to update his clock is that out of hundreds of servers, tens are chosen at random. We order them from low to high according to their value, and then we drop D from each side. Take a look at the remaining set. So focusing on the remaining set, we ask ourselves two questions. We have two conditions. The first one is whether the remaining samples are close to each other. And the other one is whether the average is close to the client's clock. If these both conditions are satisfied, then we use their average as the new client's time. Otherwise, if we fail, we try again. And again, out of hundreds of servers, tens are chosen randomly, and we order them from low to high, and drop D from each side, take a look at the remaining set and our two conditions. If we fail, we try again and again and again, until we fail k times, and then we move to the panic mode, where we sample all the servers, drop outliers, and take their average as the new client's clock. So first, let me present our security guarantees, and then I will present our security analysis. So essentially, what we show in our paper is that even under extreme scenario, shifting time at Chronos client by at least 100 milliseconds from the UTC will take the attacker at least 22 years in expectation. And this is when we consider a server pool of 500 servers, but 7 of whom are fully controlled by the attacker. We also assume that 15 servers are queried per hour and that the good samples are within 25 milliseconds from the UTC. And these are parameters that we derived from experience that we conducted on Amazon servers, over 100 of servers, both in Europe and in the US. And here we see that the benefit of using Chronos over the current NTP is a function of the number of servers that are queried per update, and the ratio, the P, here, yep, the ratio of the malicious server in the pool. Notice that the y-axis is a log scale, which means that the improvement is exponential. So, for example, if we will take the last scenario where we have a pool of 500 servers and 7 of whom are fully controlled by the attacker, and we shall look at the purple line, we can see that even using 8 servers, we can improve the current NTP by a factor of 100. And now I want to present the security analysis. So in order to do so, we have to consider all the scenarios that can happen and see how Chronos is handling them. So as you remember, out of hundreds of servers, we randomly choose M, tens of them, and then we drop D from each side. So the scenarios are going to depend on the number of malicious servers that were queried. So the first scenario is when we have the good samples. The good samples are denoted as the yellow angel, and the malicious servers or samples are denoted as a red diamond. So the first scenario is when we have more than D good samples and less than A minus D bad samples. So we have two options. The first is when only malicious servers remain in our remaining set after we drop D from each side. However, since we have more than D good samples, we have at least one good sample in each side of the remaining set, which means that they're bounded by good samples. And the good samples are, according to our assumption and the test that we run on Amazon, is omega away, omega 25 milliseconds from the UTC, which means that the remaining set is also 25 milliseconds from the UTC, omega away, and their average that we use in order to update our clock is omega away from the UTC. So it's bounded. The second option is where we have at least one good sample in our remaining set, and according to our first condition, all the samples in the remaining set should be close to each other, which means that we have at least one good sample, which is omega from the UTC. The other one are close to it, and then their average should be also close to the UTC. And this is why we say that these attack strategies are ineffective. Another attack strategy won't be to time shift our clock, but to make us do resampling again and again and again, and I will discuss it later. The second scenario is the opposite one, is when we have when the number of good sample is equal or less than D, and the number of malicious samples is more or less or equal to n minus D. So in the worst case, we have only malicious sample in our remaining set, and they're not bounded by good samples. However, according to our second condition, their average that we use in order to update our clock should be close to the current client clock, which means that we basically bound the maximal shift that Chronos allows. Moreover, the probability of this scenario that we have more than or equal to n minus D malicious server is extremely low, since it requires malicious server to be a much higher rate than the rate in the population. And of course, probability of repeated shift is negligible. Therefore, a significant time shift here is practically infeasible. The second strategy that I mentioned before was not to try to shift the client time, but try to cause him resample again and again and again, and move to panic mode where all the servers are queried. And maybe causing a multiple panic mode for multiple Chronos server can make the NANOG servers attack over the NTP servers. So in this scenario, the attacker needs at least the malicious server and at least one malicious server in our remaining set in order to violate, for example, the first condition. The first condition was that all the samples in our remaining set are close to each other, so he will just pick to send a time sample that is far away. However, we saw that even if we set a low panic threshold, say k equals 3, which means that we go to panic mode after 3 attempts, the probability of success here is negligible. The attacker will need decades in order to force us to achieve this panic mode. And another case, a special case that we want to add before I go, is that where the pool of available servers is small, say 3. So in this case, one will sample all the pool each time. And then we can achieve deterministic security guarantees. This is important mostly for PTP security. So to conclude, NTP is very vulnerable to time-shifting attacks, especially made by man-in-the-middle attacker, since it wasn't designed to protect against strategic man-in-the-middle attacker. So in the current version of NTP, attacker who controls even few servers can shift the client's time and repeatedly shift for a long time. And therefore, we present a modified NTP Chronos with provable security, even facing a man-in-the-middle attacker. It has backward compatibility since there is no need to change anything in the server side, only in client side, and we are talking about really small software changes. And we add only low computational and communicational overhead here since we query only few servers. And these are topics for our further research. Maybe we can achieve tighter bounds. What can we achieve if we weight the server according to their reputation? And can we benefit something from a slight changes in the server side also? And of course, we would like to extend Chronos to other time synchronization protocols such as PTP. That's it. This is a link to our full paper, and I can take questions now. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you very much.